Австралын Welcome.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр ороо манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор төслийн менежментийн институтын олон улсын байгууллагын Монголын салбарынх нь нарийн бичгийн дарга ноён Colin Murphy оролцож байна.
Colin Murphy. Colin Murphy мэдээллийн технологийн салбарт 30 гаруй жил ажилласан туршлагатай. Murphy Хэрэглээний Шинжлэх Ухааны баклавр, Бизнесийн Удирдлагын магистр зэрэгтэй. Тэрээр сүүлийн 4 жил Монголд ажиллаж байгаа бөгөөд одоо Оюу Толгой компани мэдээллийн систем, Технологийн багийн Ахлагчаар ажилладаг. Тэрээр өмнө нь Оюу Толгой ба Рио Тинтогийн хэсгүүдэд мэдээллийн систем, технологийн төслүүдийг хүргэх, хэрэгжүүлэх ажлыг хариуцаж гүйцээсэн. Мөн САП хэрэгжүүлэх, нэгдсэн мэдээллийн сан үүсгэх, аяллийн менежментийн систем ба усны тоолрын систем үүсгэх, харилцаа холбооны дэд бүтцийн шинэ шийдэл гаргах, том хэмжээний мэдээллийн технологийн дэд бүтцийн төсөл хэрэгжүүлэх зэрэгт олон жилийн туршлагатай.
Hello.
Hello, Jagal. Thank you.
Welcome to my show.
Thank you very much.
Please tell us about the Project Management Institute. What is that about?
Sure, Jagal. The Project Management Institute is a global organisation based out of the US. It's really established to develop the profession of project management and to help educate project managers globally. The Project Management Institute has a range of different standards that it's produced. The most well-known one is the Project Management Body of Knowledge, which is a document that describes how to best run projects across the world. And that standard is used globally across all industries, all sectors, and that's really the key part of what the Project Management Institute is about. Based on that document then, there's a range of accreditations and certificates that people can get in terms of being a good project manager. And then those certificates and those accreditations are globally recognised. So not just here in Mongolia, but globally across the US, Europe, Australia, wherever you might go in terms of projects.
See, we talk about general projects of all possible infrastructure in all across industries, right? And each project, at the end, of course, somehow managed. And what is behind the reason to get that global institute for project management?
Yes, sure. Probably a couple of key reasons, Jagal. Firstly, it's to make sure that we're sharing good practice and sharing what works in projects from different parts of the world and making sure we're learning the lessons and sharing those. The other important thing is that it provides a common language, a basis on which the people working on a project can talk about the various aspects of the project. And particularly more and more where we see multicultural projects and global projects, then it's important that we do have that common language, that common lexicon as it's sometimes referred to, that people know what they're talking about when they're talking about projects. And then I think the third part is to recognise that with the standards and the accreditation, you then have a common playing field for all project managers across the globe that allows people to say, if someone's accredited to this level, then regardless of where they're from or what types of projects or what industries they're working in, we have a common standard, a common education
Up
level.
to recently, remember, and the projects was somehow, there were several tools all around the world in business management, including the remember Gantt project. And how much that Gantt project is associated with what you do now?
Sure. So Gantt projects, or Gantt charts as they're often referred to, is an important way of representing the project schedule to show what the project needs to deliver. And one of the key elements of the Project Management Institute standard is to make sure you've got a good schedule for your project. And that's a key area of running the project and making sure that the project delivers what it needs to deliver and it stays on time and delivers to the quality that is needed. So the Gantt chart is a very important part of the overall project as well.
Which was used first during the Second World
Yes,
War
indeed.
and after have been every office, remember, with the construction site, mine site, they had a long paper on the wall and saying that what to do, and then date, and then delivery date, etc. Now, see with what happened now with the industrial information technology revolution, which happens after 200 years of industrial revolution today, this information revolution, technology revolution, certainly gives more colorful gun project. Please tell us about the importance of IT in that.
Yeah, so now rather than having big charts pasted on the wall, we can see them on our computer screens. We can use computer programs to automatically update the project schedule. So rather than being hand-drawn on a wall, it's now done automatically on computers, and we're able to share those versions of the Gantt chart with other people so that we can have multiple people updating those Gantt charts together. We can also bring together the Gantt charts from multiple projects. So where you have a situation where one person is working on multiple projects, you can integrate all of those schedules to see when the person is available to work on your project, what other constraints there might be, what other holidays and etc. that there might be on other projects that could impact your project. So we're seeing much greater integration across projects now.
And we talk about certainly of optimization of resources, more optimal use of manpower, financial power, techniques, equipment. In that sense, what the difference between they're called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, and with the project management?
ERP is really a way of running your entire business operations, be it projects that are established for your business, or be it everyday operations where you're tracking purchase orders that are being raised, you're tracking your staff leave and payroll, etc. The ERP can cover all of those areas. The Project Management Institute is really focused on the project management part and projects that go on inside organisations. The other key part of an organisation is business as usual, or day-to-day operations, as it's sometimes known. That work is sort of outside the area of projects, but still it's obviously a very important part of the overall business operations, and it's a key part of the ERP systems that we see businesses adopting now.
So in Mongolia, many important large mining projects going on, and it will be even more down the road. We have a huge infrastructure projects, new airport, now new railway lines, which even Trans-Mongolia bigger lines, pipelines, car, roads, etc. In that, with introducing your organization, your chapter in Mongolia, which you are doing already, what kind of benefits it will bring?
Yeah, good question. The reason that we started establishing the local chapter here in Mongolia was just over 2 years ago. We saw project management starting to really come to the fore with the infrastructure development that's going on in Mongolia. And really the PMI is a way of bringing together people who are interested in projects, people who are working on projects, and they can come together and learn together, come along to monthly meetings and hear from experienced project managers about the projects that they've been working on and the sorts of techniques that work. It's also an opportunity for people to come together and to attend training classes, because we also offer a range of training classes that help people to learn more about projects and to develop their project management ability. And I think the final aspect or the final benefit for people joining our chapter is really about the opportunity to network and to share experiences, particularly when you look at the broad range of industries that you've just mentioned and the sorts of infrastructure development that's going on. It's really important that people have an opportunity and a forum where they can come and exchange ideas and learn from each other. And I think those are probably the key things.
Looks like average Mongolian company. I mean, every company does one or many projects.
Indeed.
Sometimes there's dozens of projects,
Indeed.
one company. Looks like every key person of the project is to come to you to learn how does it cost and what is the arrangement for that, if an average Mongolian company wants to be a part of what you do.
Indeed. And really this is across all industries, government and private and public sector, It covers all sorts of projects, whether it's a small project that you're working on or a really large project like the new airport. And really it's about sharing all of the experiences and helping people to learn, regardless of the size of their organisation, regardless of the size of the project. What we teach and what the PMI offers can be applied at all levels, from very small projects like going on a holiday right up to building a new airport. The same approach, the same standard applies to all of those situations.
Welcome.
It looks like, in a way, sort of training center for project. People who is responsible for any project.
Indeed. Yeah.
In that sense, would you provide them certain standard software or advise it? How does it work?
Yeah, we don't so much look at software, because every company has its own software and people have access to different types of software. What we try and do is to say, here's the global standard on how to run a project, and then how do we make that simple and be able to apply it in your everyday operations, in your everyday work. And so we use some simple tools like Word and Excel, which most people have access to make sure that they can take the ideas and the concepts that are described in the standard and apply them in their everyday life, apply them in their everyday projects that they're working on.
And you will train them how to use, say, Excel in that way?
Yeah, so it's very basic training that we do provide. We're not teaching people how to do advanced features in Excel, etc. But it's really about taking the concepts and applying it in the real world is really what we're after here.
And this organization is existing in how many countries?
There's 270 chapters in the world, of which Mongolia is one of those. Some countries, some of the larger companies have multiple chapters. Some smaller countries like Mongolia have one chapter that covers the whole area.
In major cities, probably.
Indeed, mostly it's major cities. In the future, it would be great if we could have more than one chapter here in Mongolia, but you know, we just focused on establishing the first one and getting that up and going and making sure that we have a really good membership and people that are wanting and excited about coming along to the meetings and participating. That's really what it's about for the moment.
Colin, you have been living and working in Mongolia for more than 4 years. You know the country, you know the certain factors that can help you or not help you in your project. And how do you see the process of, in general, project implementation in this country? Where are the points what we can improve?
The thing that I found, I guess, challenging here, obviously the climate and the weather conditions always impact your projects, and so that's an obvious example where we need to factor that into our projects. That kind of leads me to the second thing, is to make sure that all of our projects have very good detailed plans. Not only do you have to factor in the weather conditions, you have to factor in delivery times of getting equipment and resources delivered. And that really is, I think, the key area is to make sure that we have good detailed plans, that the plans are achievable, that we then have the right resources to deliver on those projects. And then from there we can certainly increase the chances of success of our projects.
I remember, for example, difficulties like that was with the wind farm when they want to bring these turbines. The size was so huge. There was no infrastructure to handle it, and they have made or adjusted a special truck, lorry, and bringing all the way from the border.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it was rather late. I remember fall. There was snow at times. You mean that's the weather related?
Indeed, and that's how you can be impacted. Your project can be impacted suddenly by change in weather conditions. I recently met a gentleman from Airbus in France, and he was telling me about some of the logistics that they had to go through when they were building the Airbus A380 plane, the two-story plane. And it was amazing. They had to build a new plane to carry the wings for the A380. They had to build a new ferry to be able to ferry the fuselage from Hamburg down to Toulouse. And those are some examples where on the surface it looks easy that you're just delivering a new, in their case, a new airplane, but then they had to go and build all the infrastructure and to build the support vehicles to be able to transport those large components. And you know, that's all part of doing a large project, is you've got all these other complexities that come in as well.
And I remember the OT project brought the largest drill in the world. Probably they had similar difficulties to bring.
Yes.
So, back to the IT part. You have done all your school's careers with IT.
Indeed.
And the IT, this impact on general, on the way we live, in particular for Mongolia, which sort of, we call it leapfrog.
Yes.
We haven't done the major basic long hardware infrastructure before, but how much this IT can help better Mongolia.
Yeah, indeed. My career has been interesting. When I left school, we didn't have any computers. So when I went to university for the first time, that was the first time I saw a computer. And the computer took this large room. It was massive. And today in our smartphones, we have more technology and more capacity than what was in that whole room of computers back in those days. So the technology has changed so rapidly. It's just incredible. The other thing is the rate of change and the rate of improvement of technology is amazing. I think in terms of Mongolia, one thing I tell my friends when I go back home is I actually get better mobile phone reception here than I do in my home
in Australia.
In Australia. And part of that is that you've been able to jump almost straight to mobile phone technology, and whereas in Australia we came up with copper wires and the old style phones, and then the investment in mobile technology came quite late, and so the companies in Australia had to spend money on maintaining the old infrastructure as well as building the new infrastructure. And I think the advantage that Mongolia has is you've got the mobile phone technology, you can invest in that, and you know, that's the future. It's around being mobile and being having that level of mobility. With the smartphones, you can do a whole range of new things now that we couldn't do when I was growing up.
See, now the paradoxical thing today is they keep updating these smartphones.
Indeed.
And a smartphone being used by 6-year-old and 60 years old, or 80 years old. And that requires also people to be always updated, educated. And I know you have been working with adult education. Please tell us, why is that important, this adult education?
Yeah, I really got interested in adult education through some of the projects that I was working on. And when I went to university and when I was involved in various training courses thereafter, we used to get the same style of training that we got at school, which was a teacher standing out the front and telling us what we needed to know and teaching us, and we had to try and remember it and have an exam and regurgitate what we learnt.
Every country does.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, well, is that really education? Is that really learning? And then I became interested in adult education, and when you look at the literature and you explore further, what you find is adults learn differently to the way children learn. Adults learn by experience, by trialing things, by finding the things that they are interested in and learning about those. And there's a whole range of resources that we now have available to us as adults that we can use to learn. So we have the internet obviously, a whole range of tools there. We also have our own experiences that we bring to the learning environment. And then finally, we also have other colleagues that we're working with or friends that we're working with. And those are all different ways that we learn as adults, as opposed to when we're children, where we have a teacher telling us what to do, what pages of the book to read, what things to remember. Adults learn a whole different way, and so what we need to do when we're helping people to learn is to give them different ways to learn and help recognise that they're coming to that learning environment with a whole range of experiences as well as a whole range of other resources that they can draw on, not just a teacher at the front of the room.
Now, last year I happened to be in Brussels, listened to a presentation by OECD Secretary General, and he was talking about OECD lifelong education report. Striking thing was, now including your country, Australia, and all OECD, Britain and 3 countries, they all pay particular, meticulous attention to a lifelong education with the accent about the adults,
Yes.
senior people.
Yes, yes.
In that regard, what can Mongolia do, you think?
Yeah, I think Mongolia has got a wonderful base to work off with such a high literacy rate. In fact, it's embarrassingly is higher than Australia's literacy rate, and you know we have a long way to go to catch up. But that's a great starting platform, and then it's about people always looking for opportunities to learn. For example, I say to the project leaders that I work with, you know, every day I look for something new to learn about how I can be a better project manager, how can I learn to do things better. And I think in such a competitive world that we live in now, where there's global competition, where we have internet so readily available, it's important that we adopt the approach of I have to keep learning regardless of, you know, whether I'm in university or whether I'm just, you know, working away or I'm retired. Having that philosophy of continuing to learn and develop and understand what else is going on in the world, I think it's a good part of being a decent human being, but it's also important in terms of ongoing education and being able to contribute and put something back.
It becomes a necessity.
Yes, yes.
And I think a country like Mongolia have to better early pay attention to this phenomena rather than later. Unfortunately, some parliament members suggested recently that in Mongolia, men at 60, a woman at 55 retire. But that gentleman suggested 5 years earlier.
Right.
Which I find getting people sort of not active 5 years early.
Yes, yes.
And at the time when people are becoming more healthier, longer living,
Exactly.
and better living, and vice versa, I think it should be 5 years later to be retired and to be educated, like what you suggested.
Yes, yes.
I wish it is happening to this country. The other thing you have been doing also, I think, is the data center consolidations. What is that?
So that was a project that I was working on back in Australia. What we're seeing in the IT industry globally is a push to reduce cost and to consolidate the servers. Part of that is cost saving, but there's also an element of reducing the environmental footprint. And so the idea is to take your servers and to put them into a more eco-friendly environment, to try and consolidate the number of servers that you have, and to share a big warehouse with other people such that you're not having your own electricity, you're not having your own air conditioning and all the other facilities that you need around that. You're sharing some of that infrastructure with other people, which reduces cost, but it also reduces the footprint, the environmental footprint that comes out of that particular data center. So that was a project that we were looking at a few years ago back in Australia, and it was very successful. We managed to consolidate down to three data centers globally, and we were able to significantly reduce the footprint.
I keep hearing recently that in Asia, where they have of 1/3 of population of the world, half of the economy, they talking about increasingly demand for big data center, higher capacity, again the cost saving, etc. And Mongolia could be a good place for with our again cold weather, not necessarily to a lot heat, and having people smart to run the whole center. How realistic is this to have it for, say, at least the whole region?
For the whole region may take some time. Certainly there is an opportunity here around some of the environmental factors you talked about. Also, the other thing that I've seen since coming to Mongolia is there's a very good pool of talented IT people in Mongolia, very well educated, very smart people, lacking experience, but you know, that's okay. We all started somewhere without a lot of experience, and you know, part of why I'm here is to help share experiences and to train people. But the important thing is that you've got some really good basics there in terms of the environmental factors, but also the pool of good quality people that can help to build that. The next big factor then is really about bandwidth of the internet coming in and out of the country, because these big data centres require big bandwidth to operate, and that would be the next challenge. So there's time to continue to build that, but definitely there's an opportunity further down the track.
Speaking about this big bandwidth, which says that certain more capacity to transfer data per second more than more and more powerful. And there are two ways. One is a cable, physical cable under the ground, earth, and it goes, or via satellite. Which one is to be more dominant, you think?
Absolutely, the fibre optic cable in the ground will win that, just from a speed perspective. Satellite still has a role to play, because not everywhere has cable. So where you don't have that, satellite is still an important part. The main part with data centres, though, will require multiple fibre optic cables coming into data centres, because that's the level of bandwidth and demand that people will have. And it comes back to the comment you made earlier around the technology. As the technology grows, people's expectations of how quickly the response time for getting access to data grows as well. And so we have faster technology, greater expectations, so we need to be keeping up with that in terms of the bandwidth, and really the fibre optic cabling is the way that we need to be able to do that.
The way the chip's capacity increases, the phone is becoming increasingly super. And how do you see if there is any physical limit with that speed of capacity of running and storing data?
I think the physical limitation is more around the keyboard and the size of our fingers, rather than the capacity of the device. If you look at the recent announcement, for example, by Samsung and Apple of smart watches, and you look at the capacity in those, is quite incredible. The issue is how do you get data in, either via a keyboard or via speaking. So if we need devices that have keyboards, that's going to be the limiting factor, is around keyboard size and our finger size. Beyond that, though, there's very little limitations, as you can see through these watches and the smart wearable devices that are coming through now.
So these changes you just described it in its own turn requires total understanding of all this at the level of application. And that probably impact on the way the projects are run today and every day, And in that sense, universities, how much you think universities are adapting to that permanent changes with their schedule, with the way they train people?
Yeah, I think that is the challenge, and also when you look at the open education forums that are springing up globally now, where courses are available online for free or low cost. These are the challenges for education everywhere, not just here in Mongolia. How do you compete with these larger universities? But then also, how do you keep your curriculum up to date such that you're taking advantage of the new technologies and making your courses relevant, so that when the students leave your classes at the end of their degree, they're actually able to go and be productive in the workforce. And that's a real challenge across, I think, many sectors now, not just IT. Making ourselves relevant when Apple and Samsung are releasing smartphones, Google is releasing smart glasses. I mean, how do you keep your course up to date and relevant?
That also will be helpful for project management.
Yeah, indeed.
Welcome. I saw you have been working very interesting fields with IT part of it. And my last question is about the interesting project I found relevant for Mongolia is the water billing system. What is that? And can we do it here?
So this was an initiative back in Australia where, again, it was driven largely by conservation of a scarce resource, where we were having large droughts, and so
which we have to here too.
Indeed, and so how do we regulate the usage of water and get people thinking more about their usage of water. And so the project I was working on was implementing a water billing system so that at the front of each person's home they had a meter that tracked how much water they used. And then at the end of every quarter someone would come and read the meter, and there would be a bill generated to the person for that amount of water that they used. As a result of that, they were able to significantly reduce the water usage. Because people started paying for it, they became much more aware of it, which then resulted in behavioural change.
So you made a law that everybody must have that.
That's right. Every home has the water meter, and they need to be able to track how much water they've used, and then the local council will send out a bill every month or every quarter, depending on the council, and they will then charge the people for what they've used.
Unfortunately, Ulaanbaatar is only probably one of few capitals in the world which washes the car with the drinking water, in spite of the scarcity of the resources. I don't know, many things probably must be done here.
Well, interesting, one of the things back in Australia that people really were frustrated with excuse me, about the water usage was people would go out and use drinking water to hose down their driveway.
Okay.
And all they were doing was washing the leaves off the driveway.
And what will they do now? They take the raining water, or how do you use?
Yeah, so many homes now have their own tank to collect the rainwater, which then is free. So there's no charge for that. But then other people are just being much smarter about how they use water, so they've stopped hosing down the driveway, are much more careful about how often they water the garden, etc.
It's basically more culture shift issue.
Indeed, yeah.
All right, Colin, those companies in Mongolia who wants to join your chapter in Mongolia, how can they do it?
Yeah, sure. Probably the easiest way is to search for us on the internet. We have our own website. It's pmimongolia.mn, and that's one word. And they were able to come and find information. We have our contact details of our board of directors there, and be happy for them to come along. We have a monthly meeting, which is usually on the last Wednesday of each month, and they're welcome to come along and to meet some people and to ask questions, to see what we're about, and to learn some more about project management.
Because as soon as I learned about your project, your experience, your enthusiasm doing that in Mongolia, I have immediately invited you to my show, because I want an average Mongolian company has certain access to this knowledge pool in a way, and to share the experience with others.
Fantastic, yes.
Good job, Colin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very nice to meet you.